You know that moment when everything in your life seems to be falling apart, and suddenly out of nowhere universe hits pause? Like I want to see what you're really made of. That was me. Kayla Adams had just sneered. Why don't you call your mommy to come save you? And for a split second, all I could do was stand there, wearing my mother's army uniform and feeling smaller than ever. Then the world answered with a thunderous chop of helicopter blades like. I'm not kidding, a full-on Black Hawk coming in low over Oakville Elementary, making every bully and every teacher who'd turn away suddenly wake up. You ever seen a town go from smug to stunned in 5 seconds flat? Yeah, that happened. But let me back up a sec, because what led up to that was 3 weeks of holding onto my mom's uniform like it was some kind of talisman against the loneliness. My mom, Captain Stephanie Brown, had been gone a year, saving lives in Jordan, and every Sunday, I'd take her ACU jacket out, breathe in that weird mix of lavender soap and whatever courage smells like, and tell myself I was okay. Grandma Sue would watch, try to be strong, her old nurse's hands steadying me as I rolled up sleeves way too big for a 10-year-old. Your mama would be so proud, she'd whisper, but we both knew some folks wouldn't understand, maybe didn't want to. That October morning, I wore Mom's uniform to school. It wasn't about attention. It was about showing everyone what real bravery looked like. I stepped off bus 47, her dog tags thumping against my chest like a second heartbeat, expecting questions, maybe a few stares. But the laughter started before I even hit the flagpole. Kayla Adams' perfect hair, perfect life, whose dad owned half the county, led the pack, calling me G.I. Jane and asking if I thought it was Halloween. Her crew, Brittany, Tyler, Jake, they all joined in, and honestly, it felt like being stuck in a storm with no umbrella. Teachers saw, but nobody stopped it. Mrs. Walsh, my 5th grade teacher, glanced my way, but maybe she figured I was just playing soldier for some family thing. By lunch, Kayla had made it a full campaign, turning even kids I barely knew against me, and the cafeteria suddenly felt like the loneliest place on earth. You know what I mean? I tried to sit where I always did, but Brittany just said, "Sorry, this table's for actual students," and I ended up in a corner, listening to the whispers, trying to eat around the lump in my throat. Kayla strutted over, her voice low but sharp. "Does your mommy know you're playing soldier while she's away?" She was the queen of mean, and all I could do was tell her my mom was a captain in Jordan, saving lives while Kayla sat there tearing people down for sport. "Oh, dramatic," she laughed, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Maybe next time you should get real attention instead of pretending." I wanted to say something back, to defend my mom, to defend myself, but the words just wouldn't come. That's when she hit me with, "Why don't you call your mommy and ask her to come save you?" And suddenly the pain wasn't just embarrassment, it was something deeper, like she was mocking the only thing I had left to hold on to. But the universe wasn't done. That's when the sound started low at first, then growing louder, the whole cafeteria shaking until every kid pressed against the windows. Even Kayla lost her swagger for a second. Then the Black Hawk appeared, a huge beast dropping onto the football field, kicking up dust, and for the first time all day, nobody was looking at me like I was the weird kid. They were just scared, amazed, something new. Principal Martinez, always calm, was suddenly in full Air Force mode, yelling for teachers to keep order. But who can keep order when a helicopter's landing at your school? The rotors thundered, rattling windows, turning the sun into shadow. Tyler, the same kid who'd mocked me that morning, was pale, whispering, "Is that thing going to land here?" Yeah, it was. I watched through the glass as Colonel Green stepped out, dressed blue sharp as anything, Sergeant Torres behind him with some kind of leather folder. It was surreal. My grandma, who'd been working the register at her grocery store, showed up to her face ashen, like she'd just remembered every military notification visit she'd ever heard about. In that moment, I thought, is this it? Did something happen to Mom? Inside, the school was chaos. Students recording everything on their phones, teachers trying to herd us away from the windows, but nobody wanted to miss this. Kayla faded to the background, her power gone in the face of something bigger than middle school politics. When they called my name on the intercom, Madison Brown, to the main office, the whole room froze. Every eye on me. Suddenly, I wasn't a punchline, I was a question. Why is the army here for her? What do we miss? Mrs. Walsh, always steady, came to walk me to the office, and my legs felt like lead, the uniform that had been a symbol of pride now an anchor I was terrified to let go of. Grandma caught me in a bear hug in the hallway, her hand shaking. You okay, baby girl? I nodded, but I had no idea what was waiting for me on the other side of that office door. Colonel Green was gentler than I expected, kneeling to my level. Your mother was injured 3 days ago, caught in a mortar attack while saving children near Irmon. My heart stopped. But she's going to be fine, he added quick, and she saved a lot of lives. Relief hit so hard my knees buckled. But it got better, handed me a little box. Inside was a Bronze Star Dependence pin. Your mama's being honored for valor, he said, and she wanted you to see what her service really means. She's coming home for the ceremony. In that instant, everything flipped. The morning's humiliation, Kayla's taunts, the laughter, none of it mattered now. What mattered was that my mom was a hero, and soon, everyone would know. They moved the ceremony to the gym. Teachers set up rows of chairs, students poured in, local news crews arrived. Kayla and her friends sat quietly, the old social order wiped clean. Ashley Cooper, my one true friend, squeezed my hand and whispered, "They're all about to see the real you." For the first time all day, I believed it. When my mom walked in thin, pale, her left arm in a sling, but her eyes burning with that fierce love I'd missed all year, I ran to her. And it was like the world disappeared. "I'm so proud of you, baby girl," she whispered, holding me tight. "You showed them what courage looks like." Colonel Green read out the citation, how my mom shielded kids, took shrapnel to the shoulder, refused treatment until everyone was safe. The whole gym was silent. Not just silent, but different. Even the teachers looked at my mother like she was someone out of legend. When he pinned the Bronze Star to her uniform, my chest nearly burst with pride. And then something crazy happened. Kayla approached me afterward, her usual swagger gone. "I'm sorry," she said, barely above a whisper. "I didn't know. I thought you were just trying to be weird." Tyler, too, with an apology card covered in hand-drawn medals. You could see it in their faces. They'd finally gotten it. They'd seen what real sacrifice meant. But my mom, she didn't just let them off the hook. She made them talk about what they'd done, about why mocking someone for being different isn't just mean, it's dangerous. That was her gift, turning pain into lessons, enemies into students. For the next few weeks, the whole school changed. Bullying dropped, kids asked questions about military life, teachers used our story as a lesson. Even the principal started planning a military family appreciation day. My uniform went back in the closet, not because I was hiding, but because I didn't need it anymore. Everyone already knew who I was and what I stood for. At home, Grandma and Mom and I talked more than we ever had. About fear, about loss, about why people do what they do, about Mrs. Carter, the cafeteria worker whose son didn't come home from Iraq, and how service connects us all, whether we wear a uniform or not. The night of the ceremony, neighbors and strangers showed up at our door with flags, cards, and thanks. Even Kayla's parents apologized, saying they'd learned something about dignity and respect. Mrs. Carter gave me the folded flag that had been on her son's coffin, and I promised to honor it because that's what families do for each other. Sometimes I still hear Kayla's words, "Why don't you call your mommy to come save you?" echoing in my head. But now they don't sting. They remind me that sometimes the bravest thing you can do is stand up, even when the world wants to laugh. So tell me, Yuhin, was the last time you stood up for something you believed in, even if nobody else understood? What does sacrifice look like where you come from? Drop a comment, share your story, because if there's one thing I've learned, it's that real courage, real change starts with telling the truth about who we are and what we stand for.